ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय Ramakrishnaय ते नमः. Readings from Meditation and Spiritual Life. Concentration and Meditation. Our next point is Center of Consciousness. What next? After posture and rhythmic breathing, the thought of the Divine must be taken up. We are to think of the Divine. We are to have the center of one's consciousness, either in the head or in the heart. These two centers are safe for everybody. Never should a center below the heart be chosen. Here instructions can be imparted only to individuals because they differ from one another. But both head and heart are always safe if we do not consciously raise the nervous current, at least up to the level corresponding more or less to the place of the physical heart. No spiritual meditation becomes possible. The conscious raising of one's nervous currents leads one beyond all sensual temptations and establishes one firmly in morals and ethical culture. For the majority of people, it is advisable to meditate in the heart. For highly emotional people, the heart center may not be suitable and may be avoided. They had better practice concentration in the head. They may later on come to the level of the heart, which is the gateway to superconsciousness. Next point is the heart as a center of consciousness. We use the word heart very freely, but what do we really mean by it? Is it the physiological heart, that hollow muscular organ which by alternate contraction and dilation keeps up the circulation of blood in the body? Once a disciple asked Swami Brahmananda, "Sir, in which center should I meditate? Should it be the heart or the center in the head?" Swami Brahmananda answered, "My boy, meditation can be practiced in any center you please, but I would advise you at first to meditate in the heart. Meditate upon your Ishtadevata in the lotus of the heart." Then the disciple asked again, "But Maharaj, the heart is made of flesh and blood. How can I think of God there?" And Swami Brahmananda replied, "I don't mean the anatomical heart. Think of the spiritual center situated near the heart. In the beginning, as you think of the Lord inside the body, you may think of flesh and blood, but soon you will forget the body, and there will remain only the blissful form of the chosen ideal." Sometimes we point to the region of the heart to indicate our emotions. We say, "From the bottom of my heart," etc. That may be called the emotional heart. Apart from the physical and emotional hearts, there is another heart called the spiritual heart or the heart center or the Onahata Chakra, very often pictured as a lotus, the heart lotus. It is the seat of intuition of higher spiritual consciousness. In this miracle of the human body, there are various chakras, centers of consciousness. Each chakra is the meeting point of the physical, mental, and spiritual bodies of man. The lowest three are located in the region of the organ of evacuation, the organ of reproduction, and the navel. These are connected with man's lower life, animal life, sensual life. The center located in the region of the heart is the fourth and is called Onahata Chakra. It lies between the lower three and the higher three centers. The heart and the higher three centers are connected with man's spiritual life. The three higher centers are in the region of the throat, in the region between the eyebrows, and in the head respectively. You should not understand these centers physiologically. These are all like gateways to different planes of spiritual consciousness. According to the teachers of the Tantra, the Kundalini or man's latent spiritual power, or you may say pure consciousness, which was originally located in the head center or Sahasrara, passed down the spiritual channel called Sushumna through various centers of consciousness and reached the base of the spine. There it forgot itself. It then came under the sway of ignorance, was dominated by desires and passions. It forgot the way to go back. The task in spiritual life is to recollect our true nature and raise our consciousness from the lower centers to the higher centers. The heart, being in between the lower and the higher centers, is to be given preference. It is easy for us to practice our meditation there. Our next point is importance of the heart center. Again, the heart center is important because that is where you first feel the light of the Supreme Spirit who dwells within us as the soul of our soul. It is the special seat of the personal God. For devotees of God, the heart center is naturally the best place to meditate. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, "The soul through which God spots is endowed with his special power. The landlord may reside in any part of his estate, but he is generally to be found in a particular drawing room. The devotee is God's drawing room. God loves to spot in the heart of his devotee. It is there that his special power is manifest. Intellectual people find it easier to concentrate in the brain center, but even for them it is better to begin with the heart center. Everywhere in the Upanishads, which mainly teach jnana, we find the heart is mentioned as the main center of consciousness. Mundaka Upanishad says, "The all-pervading, all-knowing Supreme Spirit, whose glory is reflected in this universe, is seated in the luminous space in the city of Brahman. He guides the mind and the prana, and is located in the heart. By realizing him there, the illumined souls attain immortality and supreme bliss." According to our spiritual teachers, the heart is the holy center, which is a special seat of the Paramatman. There, he dwells in us as the soul of our souls. Highly emotional people may, for a time, concentrate in the space between the two eyebrows or in the brain center to keep their emotions from falling to lower centers. But spiritual experiences begin with the heart center. The plane of consciousness corresponding to the heart is a plane where the devotee is blessed with visions of the personal aspects of God. He sees the inner light and the luminous form of his Ishtadevata or chosen ideal. Such visions always bring with them also the conviction that he is a soul separate from the body. The devotee then realizes that he is a soul which has put on a pure mental body and a pure physical body, and that the Supreme Spirit who has assumed a blissful form for blessing him. When the devotee succeeds in entering the heart center, his body consciousness is forgotten, and at least for the time being, he remains conscious of the luminous and blissful presence of the divine. This happens when, as a result of his spiritual practices, he develops the subtle sense which enables him to understand the significance of the heart center. Then he understands the significance of meditating in the heart center and also what divine presence really means. Next point is, where is the heart center? When our spiritual consciousness awakens, we feel the eternal relation between the eternal soul and the eternal God. But where have people got the patience to make all these experiments themselves? They only come and ask questions many a time after I had explained the significance of the heart center and asked the devotees to do a little spiritual practice. They would come without doing that and ask, "Now, where is the heart center? Is it located on the right side or on the left side?" You have to discover that yourself. It is your heart, not mine. You have to find it out. This eternal question is there. The real task of the spiritual seeker is to develop this subtle inner sense. Without purity, chastity, and intense spiritual hunger, the heart center remains unopened, undiscovered. Here, I am reminded of a story. There was a great discussion between an American doctor and a Chinese doctor in China. The American doctor said, "According to our physiologist, the heart is on the left side." The Chinese said, "Our books say the heart is on the right side." And a simple discussion developed into a terrible verbal quarrel. Each one wanted to drown the other by his argument. Then an old wise Chinaman came. He asked, "My boys, what is the matter? Why are you quarreling like this?" The two doctors explained their problem. The old man smiled and said, "My boys, what does it matter if the heart is to the right or to the left? Let the heart be at the right place." So, we should discover the right place, forgetting the physiological heart, forgetting all theories. According to many spiritual men, the heart is neither at the right nor at the left, but near about the middle of the chest, where we usually feel the reactions of our emotions, pleasant and unpleasant. But none of them mean the physiological heart. They mean that in the middle of the body there is a region in which lies what they call akasa or space, or you may call it ether. Meditation is to be performed in the akasa, which exists in the heart, which feels it and transcends it. Now, try to understand the meaning of the spiritual center we call the heart. Try to feel a little consciousness there, and then, with the help of a little reasoning, think. The little consciousness that is here is the consciousness that permeates the entire body. Isn't it true? We touch any part of body. If it is not paralyzed, we feel the sensation. Similarly, this consciousness permeates our entire mental body. Mind is matter, subtle matter. It becomes active because of the touch of consciousness. This body of bones and flesh, all matter, appears to be alive with the touch of the spirit. Our last point is contact between the soul and God in the heart. The ancient Rishi declared, "There is a pure, subtle, sinless seat, lotus-like in form, situated in the middle of the body. Within this lies the sorrowless, subtle akasa. Meditation is to be practiced in this space." Think of the akasa or space in what you call the heart. The space that is there is a part of the space that penetrates and permeates our physical body and mental body. It is the seat of our Atman or self, and that again is a part of the space which is everywhere, the Paramatman or Narayana. The word Akasa has a deep meaning. This space that is in this room appears to be limited. But is it really limited? No, it cannot be. The space in the room is inseparable from the space outside it. The walls only appear to limit it. So also is the case with the spirit that appears to be limited by the heart. What appears to be limited is inseparable from the unlimited. That is what the Upanishadic teacher says in the section called Antaryami Brahmana in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The infinite spirit dwells in the earth, in the water, in the fire, in the sky, in the air, in the heaven, in the sun, in the moon, in the stars. He also dwells in the eye, the mind, the intellect, permeates everything. He is the inner controller and your own immortal self. But this spiritual seeker should actually realize all this through his meditation. It is not enough to talk about the Atman. One should feel it, seek it, and finally experience it. In the Vedantic way of thinking, the individual and the universal are inseparable. Just as we have a body, and in the heart there is this Akasa, so also there is Akasa in the cosmic heart, if you may say so. The same Akasa permeates our mental body and the cosmic body. The same spirit permeates our individual soul and the universal spirit. He is the one beyond all names, beyond all forms, who manifests himself as the individual and the cosmic. The text beginning with Dahram Vipapam has got many interpretations, but casting aside all philosophical disputations, we may safely accept that the individual soul dwells in the Akasa, in the heart, and the Supreme Spirit dwells in the soul, is the soul of all souls. All our teachers tell us that our individual consciousness is part of the cosmic consciousness. The individual cannot exist independently. Can a bubble exist without the ocean? Can a little ray of light exist without an infinite light? Can the space that is here in the heart exist without the infinite space? No. The individual and the universal are inseparable. We must realize the eternal contact between the individual and the universal in the heart center. Think intensely of the heart center and imagine it to be a center of divine consciousness. Have the thought that the divine consciousness which is within you is also outside, part and parcel of an infinite of consciousness which is undivided and indivisible. In the beginning, you may think of this consciousness as light, but really speaking, what is meant is the light of intelligence, that is the divine light. And this divine light, which is in me, pervades at the same time the whole universe and is one and eternally indivisible. This body of ours is like a temple of Brahman. Remember always, each body is a temple of Brahman. Having done all this, try to merge your consciousness in the divine consciousness, as in the case of the salt doll getting merged in the sea. You know the parable of Sri Ramakrishna about the salt doll. Our body consciousness stands in the way, and as soon as we try to merge it in the divine consciousness, we get the idea that the soul is not the body. In the beginning, all this is just imagination. But remember, it is imagination about the real. It is not a vain imagination. If we sincerely persist in our spiritual practice, we will one day realize the reality about which we have been imagining for a long time. Now, let us sum up what we have discussed so far. Dhyana or meditation is not just ordinary concentration. It is a special kind of concentration, which is the result of spiritual discipline and moral virtues. It must have a spiritual content. It is done on a particular center of consciousness. The heart is the best center for all beginners. Finally, meditation means the union of the soul with God. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.